Alright, so I'm going to be showing how to open up and disassemble this late 2014 Mac Mini. This is a model A1347. If you're wondering, you can find the model number down here, A1347. Alright, anyways, we're going to need some special bits for this to take it apart, or screwdrivers. So if you need them, just let me know. I can send you a link for the set to get. But anyways, first thing we're going to do, we need to remove this bottom cover. You can use plastic pry tools. I just use my fingernails. You basically just get underneath, okay? So there are like 3 points where it pops into place, but you just get underneath and pull this up, okay? Just like that. Be careful with this. Here you can see these 3 screws that hold it into place, okay? And on the bottom you can see it has these little pieces that line it up. Also, you can take note, this big semicircle or whatever, it goes into this spot, so you can't actually put this on upside down. You can only put it one way, and this big piece has to line up with that, okay? Anyways, we're going to set that aside for now, okay? So first thing we're going to be using is a T6, Torque 6, but this is a security bit. That means it has this little hole cut into it, so you can see that little circle there. So you have to use this T6 Torque 6 security bit. If you don't have that, you'll probably want to buy one, but sometimes you can get away with using a small flathead screwdriver. I wouldn't recommend it if you are able to wait and get the bits, but I believe this would actually work. Okay, so this is a 1.3 flathead screwdriver, okay? But again, you don't want to do this unless you have no other choice. Looks like a 1.5 flathead screwdriver would work as well. Basically, let me zoom in here, see if I can show you the screw. So here you can see in the middle it has that little thing sticking out, but the flathead screwdriver, you can kind of get it in like sideways like this. I don't know if you can see that, but let me see if I can tilt it. You can get that in there, and then you can actually use that to unscrew one of these bits, okay? So if I use that, if you're lucky, you can see I can actually unscrew this bit, okay? Again, I would recommend getting the right size bit just to be safe, but in a pinch, that will work, okay? Anyways, I'm gonna zoom back out here and show you guys how we remove this, okay? All right, so how far should I zoom out here? Alright, anyways, we're going to just remove all these screws from the bottom. You want to keep them in order because they are different size, shape, and lengths. The way I do that, I put them flat side down like this on my desk in the pattern I remove them. So we have this circular shape. Basically, I'll put one at the top, I'll put 4 like in a square, and then one at the bottom, okay? And that's how I would do this. Okay, I actually did a video on this model before, but I think that was like 2 years ago, so I figured I'd do an updated video where hopefully this one comes out better. Alright, if this video helps you out, make sure to like, subscribe, share my channel with others so that they can learn how to upgrade or repair their devices as well. And if it helps you save a bunch of money, please consider contributing a little to the channel. Every little bit helps and allows me to continue making these videos for a living. Alright, so anyways, these 3 screws are about the same size, and then these 3 screws are those bigger ones that it clips into. But again, you want to keep all the screws in order. Take note of which way you're facing this piece, so that way you don't spin it all around the place and get confused. But yeah. Alright, next thing we're going to do, we have to slightly lift this, but you want to be careful because there's a wireless antenna going tucked underneath here, and if you're not careful you can break it. So we're going to actually slide it over this way and lift it up. So we kind of twist it over left, okay? You can see we can lift it up, and we're going to carefully pull it over to the left more. And then once you get the wire here, it's kind of hard to see, there you go. But once you get that wire out from tucked under there, you can kind of rotate it to the left a little so you have room to work here. And we're going to use a T6, you can use the same T6 Torque 6 security screwdriver to remove this. You don't actually need a security version, but might as well use the same one. You don't need to switch around. Okay, so we'll remove that one screw. Once we've done that, we need to remove the wireless antenna. So to do that, let me zoom in a bit more here. You can kind of rotate and move this thing around to kind of tilt it over, so more to one side. But basically what we want to do is we want to get underneath the tail. You can use like a small tweezers or whatever if you can get your fingers in there. I did it with my fingernails before, but I'm going to do it this way so you can kind of see. But basically you just lift up from the tail here and just pull straight up just like that, and you can see it popped out. All right, and there we go. So let's go ahead and zoom back out. All right, and you have this. Make sure to keep this safe. You don't want to accidentally damage this antennas, or you're going to have some problems later. Okay, so we're going to set this aside with the other cover. Most likely yours will be covered in dust. I actually cleaned all the dust out of here already. So yeah, let's see here. Next, we're going to have to disconnect the fan here. Okay, I'm going to work on everything facing this direction if I can, so that way there's no confusion with things spinning around. But we're going to remove these screws. So there's 3 screws holding the fan down. Okay, we got that one and this one. These have these rubber pieces here. Okay, once we get those 2 out, again, you want to keep them in order because they are different size, shape, and length. Then we're going to get this one as well, the 3rd one. Okay, and this one actually stays attached to the fan. Actually, let me zoom in a bit more. So this one stays attached to the fan, so now we can actually lift this up, and you can see this actually stays attached. Okay, you want to be careful with this because we do have to disconnect this fan cable here, and it can be a little tricky. It helps to have long fingernails, or you can use a plastic pry tool, but what you do is you get underneath as close as you can, but make sure you're not going underneath this outer plastic piece. Okay, we're just going where the connector is. Okay, so I'm going to use my fingernail and I'm just going to pry it up. So just pop up like this. You can see it's kind of wiggling. Okay, so you want to be careful and then just pop it up like that. If you have a good plastic pry tool, like a small thin one, let me show you here, something like one of these. Okay, you can get underneath. You see this one has a square and then this one has a pointy, but basically here there's a little cutout. All right, so basically what you're doing is you're getting into that little cutout area and then you're prying up from there. But you want to be careful because I've heard other people, they get underneath the entire connector that's on the board here and they rip that out. So you want to be very careful with that. Okay, we're also going to have to disconnect this cable, and this cable can be really tricky because you have a lot less room to kind of get in there, as you can see. If you can get between the cables here with like a really thin tool, then you can kind of use that to kind of help pop it up, but it's going to be pretty tough. So usually what I found works best for this, let me see if I got what I do with that little one. You can use like a needle, or you can use, oh, here we go. So you can use like a folded out paper clip. So if you have a small paper clip like this, okay, basically what you want to do is get underneath the wires here. Okay, and you want to be very careful because you don't want to damage the other pieces there, but you get in here. Okay, let me zoom in more. All right, so we're just going to where the wires are, and we're going to use this to help kind of pry it up. So you see there's this raised part here. Okay, we're going to get this under there, and we're going to use that to just pry it up. So we push down here, and that will put leverage on here to pop it up. You can see it's kind of coming up, and there you go, it pops out. Okay, so be careful with that. All right, so once we've popped that out, you can see we can move that out of the way. Sorry if it's a bit blurry, but there you go. All right, let's zoom out again. Okay, what we're doing here is we're upgrading the hard drive to an SSD. To do this, you do want to create a, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but you do want to create a time machine backup. Okay, and the time machine backup will allow you to load everything back onto your Mac the same way with an external drive. If you don't know how to do that, just let me know. I think I have a video on how to do that, but it's pretty straightforward. When you plug a new external hard drive, it'll ask if you want to use it as a backup, and then you can create the backup using that. All right, the other option is you can do the internet recovery mode. When you put a new drive in here, you can do a clean install. It'll ask if you want to migrate your data. You can actually connect your old hard drive with an external adapter and then migrate everything over after that. Okay, but anyways, next thing we're going to do, we're going to disconnect the hard drive cable here. Okay, so it looks like all of these are using the same screwdriver, so that's nice. All right, same thing, T6, Torx 6, and then we're going to actually pop this little metal bracket out and set this aside. Okay, right, make sure you don't flip it upside down. And then to remove this, we're going to just get underneath. You want to be very careful not to pry anything else here. Okay, let me zoom in a bit better. Okay, Basically, we're just going to get right underneath the connector. Again, I just use my fingernails. I'm trying to get a view so that you guys can see without me in the way, but I use my fingernail and then I just get under and pop it out just like that. Okay, very nice and easy. Okay. All right, this model is actually one of the nice ones where it's not too bad to remove, though they could have honestly made it a lot easier just to remove the hard drive. They could have put the hard drive here and put more of the motherboard here, but that's their design choice. We're gonna clean this up because it is a little dusty. Okay, just brush it a little. I did clean it earlier with the air blower externally, but I didn't take out the fan to thoroughly clean the vent, so clean that out. All right, next thing we're going to do, let's see here. We got all of this stuff out. I think that might be all we need to disconnect for now. Okay, so now for the little bit difficult part. Normally what they recommend is they have a special tool that goes over into these two holes and you use that to pull this out. But what I like to do is you get a screwdriver that's small enough. I probably wouldn't recommend using these mount points. That might be too dangerous. The other thing is you can try and push on this, but you want to be careful. But you can pull on this really hard. Okay, let me see here. Let me make sure I got all the screws out because there might be some screws holding it down into here, but I think we got them. Oh, there's one more right here. Okay, don't forget this screw here that was hidden underneath. Okay, so this one goes all the way down into the metal casing. Okay, so once we've got all of that, if you can, you want to make sure you're pulling on the board here. Okay, so here and here, and let's see if we can pull it out this way. Otherwise, I'll show you the other technique. Okay, so I'll use my two fingers and pull on this. Okay, never mind, that's really difficult. Okay, so what we're gonna do, because that method didn't work, you're gonna need two screwdrivers if you can, and you want to find screwdrivers that kind of fit these holes as good as possible. The closer fit the better, preferably like a round bit. Like, let me show you here. Like probably this size is good. Yeah, so this is a 332 or 332 hex key bit. Okay, so we're gonna use that, and then we can use like probably a T9 or something, or T8, right? Okay, so you can see we can get these bits in there. Okay, so if you have multiple bits, you can do it this way. So I get the two bits, the screwdriver here and a bit in here, and you hold the sides here. If you have someone to help you hold this, that will help. But basically, we're gonna pull these two. Okay, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, but this is coming out. Okay, so basically, we're pulling this. You could technically do this with one screwdriver. Let me actually do this with just one to show you. And you can walk this thing slowly out. So we're going to use this, all right? This is the T9 bit. Get that in there, okay? And then I'm going to use this. I'm going to hold, oops, let me zoom out here. So I'm going to hold back here, all right, on this metal piece here with my thumb. And I'm going to pull with this. You don't want it to go all the way down. You want it slightly up, all right? Like, you don't want it all the way down, you want it slightly up because you don't want it getting stuck in the screw mount. So slightly up, and then we'll pull. We'll use this to pull. Jeez, this thing is tough. Okay, I don't know, this side doesn't want to come out for some reason. I didn't miss any screws, right? Let's go ahead and switch over to this one again because this side actually moves. So I'm going to grab here, same thing, and pull. And you can see now here, this is sliding out further. We're going to try this side again. Maybe it's fine to just have it go all the way down. Let's try again. There we go. Okay, so once I got more of this side out, it made this side easier. And you want to be careful. I mean, technically you can't pull it too far because you'll just hit this outer casing. But you want to be careful because you don't want to dent this, okay? But you want to be careful not to just yank on this too much because we do have to disconnect this cable here, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in here again, and we're gonna disconnect that cable. Okay, the customer wants to upgrade to a 1 terabyte SSD. All right, so we got this cable here that we need to remove. Actually, I should zoom out more so you can see how I'm kind of grabbing here, okay? Let me see, this is tough because, all right. So basically this piece, you kind of have to like grab the wires as close as you can to the connector, and you kind of just wiggle it as you pull. So wiggle this. Okay, let me zoom in here and I'll just disconnect this first. So grab this, wiggle, and there you go, it pops out. Okay, make sure you don't flip this upside down or anything. You can see the metal exposed pins are facing up. You don't want to accidentally have this upside down and plug it in with the solid plastic piece. Okay, sometimes if you buy a replacement part like power supply, you might not know and it might be upside down, so you want to be very careful with that. Okay, so we're going to carefully, slowly pull this out now. Okay, be careful not to touch the motherboard. Just grab from the edges here. Okay, all right, and here we go. So as you can see on this board, there's no replaceable RAM or anything. Okay, and you can see how the charge socket works. It has this rubbery piece that goes around. All right, you can see how this is mounted, this plastic piece. There's some screws that hold it onto this. So this plastic piece, I believe, can be removed or separated. Most likely the RAM and stuff is under here, but it's soldered to the motherboard, so you can't do anything about that. CPU's under here, also soldered to the motherboard. Can't do anything about that. You can see one speaker, or the speakers right there, and the cable is plugged in right under there. Same way as the fan and that other connector that I removed. All right, then you got the CMOS BIOS battery that's sealed under this tape here. It is replaceable. I'm not going to take it out because I don't want to damage this sticker here that's on top, but this battery is removable. If your date and time keeps getting reset for some reason, that means your CMOS BIOS RTC real-time clock battery is bad, and you can take it out. You just have to peel this stuff off, and then I believe it's a regular CR2032. All right, anyways, we're going to set this aside. Let me get an anti-static bag so I don't get it damaged. All right, so actually let me clean this up a little bit. It's kind of dusty. If you're wondering, I just use a regular toothbrush for this. Brush the dust to loosen it, and then I have this little air blower that I can use to dust it off. All right, we're going to set this aside because there's not really anything in here to look at. Okay. All right, not really anything else in here. The wireless card is removable. You can remove the antennas the same way as I removed the first one, but we're going to leave that there. All right, there's more chips underneath this heatsink thing, but again, these are all soldered to the board. Can't really do anything about it, so we're just going to leave it alone. All right, let's set that aside. Okay, next thing we got, the hard drive is in here. Okay, and then you have the power supply here. We are going to have to remove the power supply first because it's covering some screws that we need to remove, and actually one of the screws holds in the hard drive as well as the power supply. Give me a second just in case I'm getting some messages. Oops, I think I actually got, oh, I got a missed call, but it says it was a scam call, so we'll leave that be. Okay, anyways, let's go ahead and remove this. I believe they are all the same screws, right? Yep. Okay, so we can remove everything with the T6, Torque 6. Very nice. That's one of the nicest things I've seen from Apple, because usually they like to change all the screwdriver sizes, like the screwdriver that you need to use. Okay, so you remove that one there and this one down here. All right, next thing we're going to do, we're going to get rid of the power supply, or remove the power supply. So we'll zoom in here. Okay, this thing is right there. As you can see, there's this metal thing here. We need to slide that out. So this piece actually prevents this from rotating and unlocking. So we actually need to pull this out. So slide it out. I don't know if you can see how it's mounted in there. But anyways, we slide that piece out. We'll set that aside. Okay, next thing we do, we're going to twist this. Okay, just like that. All right, you can see, and that unlatches this so we can slide out the power supply. Okay, so let me show you now. We're going to zoom out a bit. Okay, now that we got this piece twisted over, you want to be careful. You don't want to just yank on this because you might break the cable there. So I'm going to actually use this raised part here, okay, the plastic, and we're going to lift that and then also back here to help slide it. Okay, it can be a little tricky. I don't know why it doesn't want to slide out so easily right now, but normally you can just slide this piece out. Is it still caught here? Okay, make sure this is rotated all the way. So you might have to hold it twisted while you kind of pull on this. Yeah. Okay, and it's coming out. If it doesn't come out from there, you might have to help pull on this wire a little bit, but let's see. Come on, it should be loose. It's getting caught here, I think. Yeah, this piece keeps getting caught. So make sure this is loose, and then you can see it comes out relatively easily. Okay, kind of wiggle it, and this cable's here. Make sure that's not getting caught in anything. All right, then you can slide this out. Make sure that cable doesn't get stuck on stuff, and there we go. Here we have the power supply. You can see this cable here is replaceable. So when you buy a replacement power supply, it's probably not going to come with this cable. You might have to transfer it over. Keep that in mind in case you get a new one. Let me see if I can pull this out and show you. So here you go. You have the exposed pins facing this way. So make sure you don't mix it up. Okay. Interesting. Wait, what? Is it always showing like that? Okay, anyways, we'll get this cable plugged back in. All right, so again, make sure the exposed pins are facing that way. For some reason, my brain wasn't seeing these pins earlier, but anyways, let's go ahead and plug this back in. So just get that line back up. And then you want to push on the outer plastic parts of here, all right, not on the wires. So push that in and make sure it's all lined up and flush there, okay? So there we go. We'll set the power supply aside as well. Now we have access to the hard drive. Very nice and easy to get to right here, this tray, once you have everything else out, of course. All right, and you can either slide it up through the hole here, or obviously you can slide it all the way out through the front here. But be careful with these cables that they don't get caught on anything, okay? And then you can slide it out. I would say just slide it out through the middle is easier. Okay, so here you have the hard drive here. Okay, if you're wondering what this is for, I believe this is for the hard drive indicator light. So this thing, it actually like flashes to tell you like when the hard drive activity, when it's doing something. At least I think that's what it's for, right? Yeah, you can see this. Oh, it's also like an infrared thing. There's an infrared sensor. I don't know if people ever use that, but yeah. Okay, next thing, we are going to need another screwdriver now, because to remove these, I believe they are the T9, but let's go ahead and check, okay? So let's try should we try the T9 first? It might be a T8. Oh, actually it is so a T9 fits perfectly. So if you have a regular Torx 9 or the security Torx 9, you can use either one, and that should work, all right? You might be able to get away with a T8, but this is a T9. All right, as you can see, we can remove that. Okay, so we're gonna remove all four. There's two on this side and then two on the other side. Okay, there also is some adhesive holding the connector onto the hard drive, so be very careful with this. All right, so we're gonna carefully remove all four of these screws. Okay, so we got that one. And the last one here. Be careful because that cable is somewhat in the way, so make sure push it out of the way when you go to unscrew it. Okay, and also it's kind of this plastic bracket's in the way, so when you unscrew it, kind of somewhat comes out at an angle, but there we go. Okay, and remove that and set it aside. Again, be careful not to damage that cable there. Okay, so now you can see this piece is loose in here. It's moving around. You want to be careful. We can slide it out with this cable. So we're gonna let go, and the hard drive is in my other hand while I pull this plastic bracket up. You want to carefully guide this out. Okay, so you might have to like slightly bend it up a little, and there we go. So this is what the hard drive looks like, and it has, like I said, there's this adhesive holding this on there. That adhesive isn't necessary, but you can put it back just to be safe so it doesn't slide out, but really there's not really any way it's going to come out unless you're like dropping your Mac Mini. All right, so I'm going to get a 1 terabyte SSD real quick. I'll be back, and then we're going to swap this over to that drive. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, I'm back. We got the 1 terabyte SSD. Okay, so to replace this, first thing, there's some adhesive holding this down, so you want to be careful. It does help to apply a little heat here, so I actually have like a small heater, space heater, that I can use here. All right, so I'll heat this up. We'll just warm it a little bit, and that way this adhesive will kind of peel easier. If your hard drive is completely dead, you can even just put some rubbing alcohol in here and not really worry about it. But if you want to make sure your hard drive is okay, we're going to apply a little heat and then slowly peel this off. Okay, so let's warm this up. Okay, it's coming a little bit easier. We're going to have to heat it a little bit more. Alright, the only thing with heat, you want to be careful not to apply too much because you don't want to start melting things. Alright, so here you can see it's peeling off. Okay, and there we go. So this disconnected. Now we have to get underneath this piece and peel that up. So this one can be a little bit tricky. You do have to find a little place where you can kind of get underneath and then peel that up. If you can peel this up a tiny bit, let me zoom in here. We actually don't need the heat anymore, but maybe the heat will help a little bit with this. Okay, so I'm going to use this little plastic tool, but you can use like a needle or something. Anyways, that's probably good enough, so I'll turn it off and move that out of the way. Alright, so basically you can pull this a little. You can see it's forming a gap there. Okay, so you can see I can pull this and form a gap. So in between that gap, you'll use a small thin tool like a needle or something, and then you get under there and you can see we can peel this up. Okay, and once you get it started, you can kind of just grab that and then peel that out. But you want to be careful not to damage this cable, obviously. Okay, so I'm going to use the tweezers, probably easier. Okay, so we'll get in there with the tweezers and then peel this up. But we got to be careful because the tweezers do have a sharp point and we don't want to accidentally damage that. Oops, sorry, I'm going out of view. All right, let me move the heater out of my way real quick. Come on. Get out of my way, heater. Okay, so we'll set that out of the way. All right, so you can see we got that peeled up slightly. So we're gonna kind of just roll it back and then just continue pulling. All right, and it might help with more heat. This thing is kind of being a pain. So let me see, I'm gonna pull this up a little and then I'll grab it with my fingers because my fingers grip better than that. Okay, so we're gonna peel this up. And if you want, you can actually leave this attached on the end of the connector here. Okay, so when you peel this, oops, sorry. When you peel this, you can leave it attached to the SATA connector. Well, I already peeled it off, so never mind. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and disconnect this. We'll zoom out. Sorry, I think I zoomed in too much, so it was kind of hard to see. But we'll grab that, pull that off, get the SSD. We'll slide this on, okay? And then we can just put this back onto here to keep it from sliding off. All right. Okay, if you tear this tape thing, you could always just use any adhesive. You don't have to use the one that came with it. Okay, so you can just use any tape. It's not touching any metal pieces or anything, so you don't need to worry about shorting anything out. You don't need electrical tape, and actually electrical tape doesn't hold very well, so I wouldn't use electrical tape. Anyways, we'll just stick this back down like that. Okay, and now you can see if we pull this, it holds itself in. Okay, so there we go. Make sure that's taped on there. Okay, then you can go ahead and tape this back down as well if you want. We'll set the hard drive aside for now. We are going to have to pull the data off it, so keep it safe. Okay. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, we gotta thread the new SSD hard drive into this plastic bracket. Okay, so in the same way like this, you have it facing. Then we'll thread this through just like that. Once we have this threaded through, then we can kind of drop this into place. Make sure it's going, make sure the rubber things are sandwiching in between. Excuse me. And then we kind of slide this over, make sure these screw mounts line up, and then we just screw this stuff back into place. Okay. And usually I like to loosely fit the screws first to get everything lined up, because as you can see, it can move around a little. So we'll loosely fit that one screw. This one will be tough, so we'll do that last. We'll rotate this, and then let's get these other ones in. Okay, so we'll get this one in. Okay, and then we'll get this one in. right, and then we can go ahead and tighten these down since we got 3 of them, 3 of the 4 in. It should allow us to line up the last one easily. Okay, there we go. And then we'll get this one. All right, and the last one, you have to be very careful that you don't smash these cables that are sticking out here. So it might help to kind of use something to push it out of the way when you get that screw in. Okay, so let's get the screw in first. Okay, now that we got the screw there, make sure that you push the cabling away. Okay, looks good. And then we're gonna go ahead and screw this down. Good. All right, perfect. So now that we got all 4 of the hard drive screws in, let's go ahead and put everything back together. So we got the box here again, okay? So again, I'm gonna slide it through the top because I feel that's easier. So just go through the top here. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to line up this little notch. There's a little hole in there. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there's that hole right there. So you have to line that up to get that in there so it doesn't wobble around, okay? So it can be a little tricky. Also, there's the little holes here. So there's a hole there and a hole, I can't show it, it's not, there you go, and a hole there. And that lines up with those, you see those little protruding parts, one right there and one down there. So we have to line that up. All right, so what we do, we drop this in, right? And then we can kind of look in here and line that up. This one's a little easier because there's only one, there's only one hard drive that goes on here. Some models have support for 2, and then that one's a little bit trickier. But here you can see if I try and move it side to side, it stays in place. That's how we know we're good. All right, we're now done with the T9 or Torx 9 screwdriver bit. So we'll put that away, switch back to the T6 security bit. Okay, and let's go ahead and put back the screw for the hard drive thing first on the left here. So we'll get this one in first. Make sure this is lined up right and isn't going to have any issues. Okay, so there we go. Get that screwdriver in. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to get the power supply back in. So just line this back up. Slowly, carefully, kind of wiggle this back into place. All right, it's a little bit easier to put back in because the wires kind of naturally just go down into the right area. Make sure that this is going over to the side here and not sticking out and getting caught. Okay, slowly continue pushing this through. Then of course we do have to twist this to get this to go all the way back in. All right, make sure this goes up over the screw mount. There we go. Line that up, make sure that falls into place. You can see if you're putting pressure on top, it locks into that raised mount. And we should be good. Let's get that screw in. And we'll tighten that down into place. Okay, good. All right, next thing we need to relock this back into place. So it might be a little tricky. You have to make sure that you get it into the right slot. There's kind of like a few like rails and guides in there that might get you confused. But anyways, I'm gonna get this lined up right, and we're gonna have to twist that into place. Okay, so make sure it's going into the 2 further back rails. Okay. And then we'll twist this back into place just like that. Okay, so it's important that you get it, I don't know if you can see this, that you get it into the back rail, not the one that's in the front. Same thing with this. You can see it's in the back rail, okay, not the one in the front. Okay, so now hold this in the twisted position that way. We'll get this metal piece back here. Make sure, of course, that this piece is pointing upwards. Okay, and you just slide this over the plastic part of this at the base. Okay, so this goes into the plastic part. Can you see that? All right, it goes into the plastic at the base, and then you just slide that over just like that. Okay, and then once this is slid all the way in, you can see you can't rotate this anymore. Okay, so there we go, we got that in. Let's zoom out. Next thing we gotta do, put the motherboard back in. Okay, so we'll grab this, make sure you put it the right way. You can see the connector for the power supply there, so make sure that is lined up with this. Okay, we're gonna carefully slot this back in. All right, wiggle it, slide it back in. Okay, be very careful with this. All right, go slow here. we are going to have to make sure these foam pads go down. All right, you don't want to just force it in, because then these foam pads will get torn off from the edges here. So you can see here I pushed it down, but if you just go straight in, you can see it's pushing on the foam pad. You don't want it to do that. So make sure you push those foam pads down and then slide that in. Okay, same thing on this side. It doesn't have the foam pads, but it has this clip. So you want to check for that, and also these metal tabs. So we'll slowly, carefully push that. Okay, then we got that side. We'll slowly, you can push this down to help it, and then you can push that. Technically, you could just jam it in, and it will be fine. But you do want to be careful and not just force it and then accidentally damage something. Okay, so next we got to plug in the cable here. I didn't push this all the way in yet because I need to be able to plug this in easier. So get in there. Okay, push this back, line that up. Again, make sure the exposed metal pins are facing up. Line that up into the hole there. Okay, get that all lined up. Okay, it can be somewhat of a pain, but let me see. I'm going to use the tweezers to help push it over a little bit. Oops. Okay, that's right. Okay, so, and then make sure it goes straight in. Okay, and then you can push. I use my fingernail, and then I just pull it in like that, and you can see now we have that connector all the way in. Okay, we can now go ahead and push this the rest of the way. So just carefully kind of work it and push that all the way. Okay, so now that that's in, we're gonna get this cable back in, the IR sensor thingy and the hard drive activity light. Just line it up. Okay, once you get it lined up, push it down, should click in. This one as well, the hard drive connector, line that up. Okay, make sure that you get this lined up right. You can see from the side here. Okay, get it in there. You can see it's, oops, sorry. You can see it's lined up, and then just push it down. All right, and that's pretty much it for these connectors. Okay, let's zoom out here. You want to make sure, obviously, that this is flush. Okay. Okay, next thing, we're going to get this long screw back in down here. Okay. So I like to twist it backwards till you hear it kind of click. That way you know it fell into the right position, and then you can go ahead and tighten it down just like that. Okay, very good. Next thing, we're going to go ahead and put the hard drive cover, connector cover back on top. So just line that up. You can see it has that little slant cut into it. Same thing, you want to line that up, and then get the screw in and hold that in place and just tighten it down. There we go. Oh, I twisted it too much. Okay, hold that in place and then tighten that down. Good. Okay, so now we got that. Next thing we're going to do is get the fan back in. So the fan, you want to make sure to get the connector in, obviously. So you can see the top and bottom. Oh, it's a little bit dusty on the bottom. Let me brush that a little bit. Okay. If you're wondering, I just hold on the bottom of the fan a little so it provides a little resistance, and then I just brush it. I brush it this way so that it spins counterclockwise, and then I brush this way so it spins clockwise to try and get behind all the fins. Then I use the air blower to clean it out, and you can see it's a lot cleaner now. It's not with that brown dust. Okay, so you can see this connector, it has the little slits in it, and then the top has the exposed pins. So you want the exposed pins again facing straight up. Line this up just like the other connector. Okay, once you get it lined up, just push it down and click it into place. All right, hopefully you guys are able to see that. I'm going to zoom out. Give me a second. Keep getting scam calls here. All right, so there we go. Then we gotta line this up and get this screw into this hole with the metal. Okay, just like that. Line that up. Then we obviously have those two screws that were towards the back that we need to get in. So I'm not going to screw it in yet. So we're going to get this in, twist it backwards here at click, and we'll loosely fit it. All right, then we get this one, same thing. Here's a click and loosely fit it, and then this one. And then now we can tighten it all the way down. All right, just like that. Just like that. All right, we're almost there. So next thing, we got to get the wireless antenna back on. Can be a little bit tricky. You want to be a little careful with this. So same thing as before, you kind of just get it positioned right. So it helps to kind of like do it at an angle like this. All right, line it up. You'll know it's good because when you get it over the connector, okay, you can see if I'm trying to move it right now and it stays in place, okay? Okay, once you get it there, then just click it down. Okay, so I felt it click, good. Then we swing this over, get this lined up first, and we'll get this screw back into place. Okay. All right, and get that screw back in. Make sure this is staying down. Good, all right, now we gotta get this connector back in. So pretty simple, just slide this so that the antenna wire goes underneath between the power supply and the metal casing. All right, and then you don't want to actually get this underneath this piece where the screw mount is, because the screw will go into it. So make sure it shouldn't tuck in on this side. All right, I don't know if you can even see that. The contrast is too, come on, it won't. Okay, so here you can see, there you go, see that cable? It's sticking out from there. You don't want it to go underneath the screw mount. Okay, all right, let's zoom back out. Zoom back out more. All right, so pretty simple now. Just get this line back up. Okay, and then we put back all these screws and snap the cover back on. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. Again, if it did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share my channel with others so that they can learn how to upgrade their devices as well. And if it helped you save a bunch of money, please consider contributing a little to the channel. Every little bit helps and allows me to continue making these videos for a living. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. So yeah, again, if you need help installing the OS or finding tools or whatnot, finding what type of drive to use and things, just let me know in the comments section below and I will send you a link or another video that will help with that. And yeah, okay, last screw. Then we just pop this back on. If you're wondering how to boot to like external devices, you hold the option key. You can actually boot your Time Machine back up using that. You just plug it in and then hold the option button when you boot it. Okay, anyways, line this back up, make sure you have it right parallel to this, and then click it back in. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. All right, let's drop this. Bye.